So see, all you need to change everything. See we're wasting away. No breeze. We're beating out so cold. Try to get back on. I'm a cowboy. We're still outside. I want it. Yeah, I want it. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing this morning? How's everybody doing this morning? We're talking about a recap of day 2 and 3 of the Democratic National Convention, a little bit of government contracting, and upcoming legislation. So grab your business bestie. Good morning, Kiki. Your contractor's notebook and your favorite beverage. Because there's a whole lot of people want it. I have very eclectic taste when it comes to music, so don't mind me. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so you have to mind me yesterday. I stayed up too late the night before, and quite frankly, I woke up late, so I didn't go live. Anywho, so that's what happened to me yesterday. So today I'm talking about day 2 and day 3 of the Democratic National Convention. I will say this for the Democrats. They know how to put on a party. They know how to make their audience feel good. The the country could be going to hell in a handbasket, and they're going to put on a party and tell you that it isn't, and everything is fine, and everybody will believe it. Because the DNC is about the country being great, the economy is great, the leadership is great, everything is great. That was the overarching message. That was the stark contrast between the DNC and the RNC. The DNC message was light, it was fun, it was we're great, whereas the RNC was everything isn't great, but we're going to make it great again. And that's why the two messages are being received differently. That's why people are looking at the DNC and saying, yeah, I can buy that. And the RNC message was like, unless you're a true believer, the RNC message was harder to take. That is one observation that I made. So if you were a general Joe Blow, if you're a general business person, the DNC message was easier to digest because they even pulled out people to say, I'm a business owner and my business is thriving. And see, the presidential campaign came to my business and it's thriving. So that's one of the things I want to talk about. They made sure they pulled out every supporter that they had and they trotted them out on the stage. And I noticed how last night, they had on the monitors, I'm a small business owner and my business is thriving because of the policies, but they never go into details of how the business thrived because of the policy. No detail, no anything. I'm not knocking it. This is just an observation. So it's easier to buy into. And what we know about human condition is that we want to buy into the positive. Now, I'm not here to tell anybody how to vote. That's not the purpose. I'm making an observation, and it's for up to you to decide which way you land. Now, if you need somebody to tell you what to do, then that's another problem for another day. That's not my job. I'm just making an observation. Another thing now I'm going to tell you something the vice presidential candidate from the DNC said in his speech last night that I agree with. When he talked about people making choices that you wouldn't necessarily make, I agree with that. I thought he was spot on with that. And when he talked about minding your business, I agree with that. I'm spot on with that. However, it is not in conjunction with some of the policies we've seen because they want to shove it down people's throats. So that's where I have to differ. So I loved his message because you got to know who he was, because I didn't know who Waltz was before he was nominated. I didn't have a clue. No clue who he was. I don't know what he brings to the table. And he brings middle America to the table. Now I know what he brings to the table. He brings that middle America person. He's the let's connect with the shrinking middle class to make them feel like they're part of the process. I understand why he was added to the ticket. His speech was about perseverance. I understand why he was added to the ticket. Tim Waltz represents perseverance. The average American, I was a teacher. He is to talk to teachers. He's to reach out to the common man. So now I get why she chose him. He gave and inspired his 17-year-old son getting up with tears in his eyes, clapping. That was a great camera shot. I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying it was political. If that was my father making that speech, I'd have cried too. So I get why he was added. I get the value he brings to the ticket now. I know a little more about him. He was introducing himself to the nation. And he did a good job last night. I'm going to just say it. I I know more about him because I was clueless as to who he was before last night. Clueless. Now, one of the things they said on day 2, so now we're 77 days as of day 2, so we're 75 days away from the election. They have a lot to do in them 75 days. The DNC so far has been a rebranding of Kamala. And I want y'all to get something from a business perspective. They're rebranding Kamala. Now, because everybody's been saying Kamala, so apparently that's how you say her name. They're rebranding Kamala because people don't like her because of her prosecutorial record in California. And it's terrible. I don't care what you think about her. Her record was terrible in California. So they're trying to highlight her good record and downplay the bad. In business, this is what you do. You go on a rebrand marketing campaign and say, look, I had some missteps. I've had some people say some things about me that may or may not be true. But let me tell you about me. That is what branding is about. And let me tell you, she took the bull by the horns and she is branding herself this week. Good morning, Miss Matt. She is introducing herself to the nation. And what's more, she's not doing it. She got people to do it for her. She is touting all of her accomplishments, her achievements, her accolades. She even got I don't know what she does in Maryland, but she's running for a Maryland Senate seat to talk about, in California, we did this and I brought it to Maryland. And in Maryland, it's succeeding. This is rebranding 2.0. And let me tell you, if you had struggling in your business, if nobody knows who you are, you need to be I'm taking branding notes from this myself so I can implement this in my business. If the DNC doesn't do anything else well, they know how to brand themselves. And that is something, if I was to talk about messaging, if I had an opportunity to sit down with the RNC, I would tell them, you do a bad job at branding. You do a bad job at branding and messaging. The RNC does not message itself well. Point blank, period. The DNC messaging, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I disagree with it. But I'm telling you, they will put out a message that will make you believe that the sun is shining and it's pouring rain. It's been a great job of it. The DNC messaging this week, they have not told you flat foot out one policy. They have inferred, they have implied, they haven't said one policy at all this week. But they have people sold. And that is what you want to do. You want to sell people. I'm going to go here. They could sell a program this week. Tonight, Kamala Harris can get up there and sell a $14.95 ticket and people would buy. Their fundraising this week is off the hook. I saw in the news broadcast they're talking about her campaign had raised millions this week. The branding, the messaging, and she has not dropped one policy. She has implied, she has inferred, but she has not dropped one policy. The branding and the messaging is on point. They've talked about immigration. They have trotted out 2 Republicans who have broken away from the Donald Trump camp. They've been quiet about the Democrats who've broken away and went to the Trump camp, but they've trotted out the Democrats who have the Republicans who have gone to the Democratic camp. So they're trying to talk to the political middle. They're not talking to the soul people. There are people who are going to vote blue no matter what. There are people who are going to vote blue no matter what. They're not talking to them. They're talking to the political middle. Because there are people who are not committed. They didn't like Joe. They didn't like Trump. There are people in the middle who don't like Kamala and they don't like Trump. They're talking to them, and quite frankly, I think they're doing a good job of it. Because there's still people who don't like Trump and they still don't like Kamala. So guess what they're doing? They're talking to them and they're using tactics of, you may not like indirect tactics, indirect verbiage. You may not like her, but you love your country. This is there is a return to the red, white, and blue America narrative. Is that return to country and flag narrative. They're just using 2024 verbiage to sell it. I remember, I'm going to go here. This is a page out of the Republican playbook. They just put a DNC spin on it. I think this is spot on branding and marketing. Even their vote in their roll call was a party. It was a vibe. You just got hooked and you were swept away by the vibe when they did the roll call night too. And if you weren't paying attention, you totally missed. No policy was discussed. Totally missed it. Not one policy was discussed. You even missed the fact that there were some protesters that was arrested. Totally missed that. Missed it altogether. There's this major focus on reproductive rights. I'm going to say it again. I don't get the big deal about Roe versus Wade. This is not the first time Roe versus Wade has been overturned, and I'm going to go here. It will not be the last time. So I don't understand why people are geeking. And the slang was intentional. Roe v. Wade has been overturned so many times. I'm tired of it being overturned. Write your congressmen, write your senators, and get them to do some legislation. Congress, Senate, the House and Senate could have wrote some legislation a long time ago and made it permanent law. They chose not to. You know why? Because it's a great election year hot button issue, and they use it to sway votes. And what are they doing this year? They're talking about the president packing the court. The president can't pack the court unless you allow him to by coming up with this nonsense of changing the court to 10 people, which doesn't make sense because if it's 10 people, who's breaking the tie? Putting term limits, which means the Supreme Court loses its autonomy and yields to political pressure. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day. So we do know that there's at least 2 Supreme Court justices who will be chosen by the next president, which is why they keep bringing up the Supreme Court. If they don't keel over, they're just going to retire. So it will be important who sits on Pennsylvania Avenue from the perspective of they get to recommend They get to recommend who the next justice is. But guess who chooses them? Congress and Senate. So find out who's running for Congress and Senate in your state. And make sure you vote somebody in who is going to select somebody that you feel it's going to make a great choice for the bench. Purely simple. Who cares which political party that they are in? Because if you look at the rulings, good morning, Belle. The rulings that have been coming down, they're less about political standing and more about the law. It's just that people are so politically blind they can't see that. But that's another story for another day. We're going to talk about that another time. Matter of fact, there's a woman on TikTok. She does a great job of dissecting Supreme Court rulings. I need to look up her name and I'll share that. She does a great job of dissecting Supreme Court rulings. I'm going to try to bring on my platform, but that's another project I'm going to announce later. But the DNC for day 2 and day 3 has been a great lesson in messaging. If you have a hard time messaging your business, if you have went through something that damaged your brand, let me tell you, you need to go back and look at what the Democratic National Convention has done and take notes. Because I'm going to tell you, they haven't dropped one piece of agenda. We don't know what her presidency is going to look like. It's a whole lot of assumption, but people are sold. She's speaking tonight. Hopefully, we're going to know. I personally don't believe she's going to drop her agenda at all before the election because people are sold and without an agenda. So I don't think she's ever going to drop one. I think it's sad that people are sold without one. It's not the American way. It's not the smart way to vote. However, people are going to vote based upon not knowing where she stands politically. They're making an assumption that she believes that she believes the same way the current president believes. That's a dangerous assumption. We don't know. However, we'll see what she says tonight. It's 75 days until the election. Everybody needs to know who is running on your local level. Because money, good morning, Sharon. Remember, I talked about this once before. Money flows down and around. So the flow of federal dollars flows from the federal government to the state. So we really need to be aware of who is sitting on Pennsylvania Avenue. Democratic presidents tend to spend more on social programs. We know she has a social eye. We know that she tends to lean on social projects. What she has revealed, there's going to be an uptick of spending on, quote, projects to build the middle class. She's been very vague on that, on what that's going to entail. We don't know. We know that Republican presidencies build the military. That's just been historically accurate. So we do know that Trump intends to shrink the federal government. So that requires getting rid of redundant positions. Now, however you feel about this, however you feel about that, there's a lot of people who agree with that stance. There's a lot of people who don't. If you're just to compare the two right there. So we'll see. 75 days until the election. We're going to see where they fall. It's interesting. We're going to see what she has to say to us tonight. So anybody have any questions? I might stream tonight. I don't know. I have to see. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. I might go late. And you know what? Join me tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Friday's edition of Contracting Chatter. We're going to do a review of the DNC in its entirety. And we're going to talk about what, she officially, Kamala Harris, will officially accept the nomination according to speechwriters. Good morning, Sharon. According to the speechwriters, she's also going to thank President Biden for stepping to the side so she can run. So we're going to see if she releases her full platform tonight. Who knows? But so far this week has been branding and messaging 2.0. And with that, I will see everybody tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to recap the DNC in its entirety. We're going to talk about the overall messaging, what we've learned, what we still don't know, what we need to know, and what we're going to roll with as of tomorrow. And have an amazing day. I'm Luciana Turner, the host of Contracting Chatter, where we discuss all things government contracting and all things business. Have an amazing day.